Snow Leopards, and welcome to day 1 of this unit, Chemical Reactions. I'm so glad you have chosen to work independently and to do what you can to achieve and to learn this unit in your group. To give you a sense of what each day will be like, you're going to start by pulling off this video from Google Classroom. As you play it, keep in mind that you will be working independently to complete the slideshow video, and that your list of items that you should have completed will also be present on that first slide and your final slide. So for today, you're responsible for answering your doodle sheet from A to F, so answering every box complete from letters A to F. Use your whiteboard to show thinking about why organisms eat. You'll see a prompt for that. Turn in a combined group poster. So this is going to be a Snow Leopard poster eventually. You're going to be making smaller models and then create a big one. And then you'll be redefining or refining that driving question. So that redefined or refined driving question should be written also very clear. So keep aware that that is what we're looking at as we look at these things we call chemical reactions. Okay. Also keep in mind that I will say, though sometimes I might forget, to pause the video. If I clearly indicate do something, then go ahead and do it, and pause it when I'm saying to do these things. Okay, here we go. Back to the finches. Here we have this lovely female finch, and there are those big seeds there, the tribulus seeds. So here's a question, and it's going to seem very basic. What happened? What happened to the finches? Specifically, what happened to the finches? Here we have this graph. Keep in mind your x-axis. Keep in mind your y. What did we learn from this graph? What's that red indicate? What does the blue indicate? Did the majority of finches survive the drought, or did the majority of finches not survive it? And why? What was the exact cause of death? Here we have a moose. It's a female moose. Do you remember when the moose breed? If you are thinking the fall, you're right, they breed in the fall. So if they breed in the fall, what time of year is the moose pregnant? If you're thinking the winter, you're absolutely right. So they breed in the fall, they're pregnant in the winter. What do you think about this female being pregnant in the winter? Do you think it's easier to be pregnant during the winter? Or do you think it's more difficult? Why did we see so many moose die off in the population? So again, here's the question. Why did all those finches and moose die? If you say they died due to starvation, or the majority died due to starvation, you would be correct. So why do organisms need food? Why do you die if you don't have food? Go ahead and record your ideas on the doodle sheet in spot A. So letter A on your doodle sheet, record to answer this question, why do organisms need food? Need food, not how, but why. Go ahead and pause this video while you answer that question. All right, so now that you've been working through the idea of why do organisms need food, I want you to work in your groups of 2 and create some kind of a poster that explains why we eat. Again, not just how we eat, but why we eat. Do your best. Don't worry if you're not certain about this. Oh, maybe I'm not a snow leopard after all. Don't worry about it. Just do your best. Get something on your whiteboard that represents you and your partner's thinking. And then we're going to be sharing them with each other. or you'll be sharing them with each other, I should say. And if you have more questions than you do answers, great. Put that all on your diagram, put that all on your whiteboard. Okay, so do this now and go ahead and pause me while you and your partner work on it. Okay, so now that you have your whiteboard posters done, share what you discussed with your partner and how you created your poster with the other snow leopards. Okay, so take a moment again to discuss what you learned with the other snow leopards, and then once you have completed that discussion, you can continue on. So pause me right now and have a discussion with the other snow leopards. All right, so what is the big picture? What are we trying to figure out? In this next week or so, we're going to consider what organisms need to do in order to survive and reproduce. Remember, as we learned in natural selection, it's not that easy to survive and reproduce. We also want to remember that part of our year-long exploration of living things is to ask how they are the same and how they are different. That goes back to our unity and diversity unit. So let's broaden our conversation beyond just food. What else is there besides food? So we started by talking about food, but here's a question. Is food the only thing organisms need to take in to survive? What else besides food? Now, you're going to work in your group of 2 to generate a list of what we take in, what we put out, and what we use the stuff we take in for. Again, don't forget about food. We're just looking at not only food, but what else besides food. You're going to write your ideas in Doodlebox B. So in Doodlebox B, you're going to see inputs, uses, and outputs. And I want you to think about what can we use as a whole class diagram to track our ideas on what should that look like. But before that, again, with your partner, generate a list, inputs, uses, and outputs. The point here is to get a lot of ideas. So just put down all the ideas that you can think of, and then we will bring it together as a class. So go ahead and pause me right now and get that done with your partner. All right, now you're going to be sharing the ideas that you have with the other snow leopards so that you can generate one representation that can guide your group for the coming conversations. This is going to be your class representation poster for inputs, uses, and outputs. Make sure that on this poster you share it with me, so you'll leave it behind. Include the names of everyone who's present today in class for who is a snow leopard and your period. Also, you can use the paper. I have large paper kind of in a roll in the back. That's the paper you're going to use for your class representation. And again, you just need one poster for all of the snow leopards. So discuss this together. Okay, go ahead and put me on pause as you discuss that. All right, do you have your class representation? Hopefully everyone has contributed to it and you're in agreement on it. I want you to keep in mind a few things that your class representation should have. So again, you should already have it done. And I want you to think about a couple of things that your representation should have. So consider this to be a kind of a living diagram. So you can always add to and revise what you have on this poster. Don't confuse this poster with a model. This is basically just a summary of observations about what happens with biological organisms. It's an overall big summary, but it doesn't explain how or why the processes happen. Later, you're going to develop a model that will explain how or why. This is just looking at inputs, uses, and outputs. And it should be a big list that you can change over time. You should have extra space on your poster. Don't have the entire space filled. If you need to add paper to it or tape it on, you can, because you're going to want to display other things on this diagram and you're going to need room to change and move it around. So keep that in mind. All right, does your diagram have all of those things? If so, you can continue on. Now that you've got your diagram and you feel it has all of those things, go ahead and keep track of your of your snow leopard representation by putting it into doodle space C. So you're going to look at your snow leopard representation here and add that into doodle space C. Go ahead and pause me right now while you put that in there. All right, so are we making progress? So far today we've asked, why do organisms die without food? What else do organisms need to take in? And what is food for? Go ahead and include your ideas here in doodle box D. Now keep in mind, as you look at D, it's organized into 3 different columns: do stuff, make stuff, and both. Okay? So you want to be looking at, you've come up with some ideas about inputs and outputs and uses. And again, ask this question, why? Focus in on the uses part. Can you categorize those things? Notice that uses, if it has a use, it's really kind of about making stuff or it's about doing stuff. So use these categories to provide as a tool to figure out your ideas about matter and energy that is central to the biology, the science that's happening here. Look at what you notice. Do you see any patterns? Do all of these things require matter? Do they all require energy? Do they require both? So let's just look at, what does it mean to take stuff and what do you need to do with it? Okay? So go ahead and fill out your ideas in doodle sheet D and pause me now. Oh, sorry. There's a little more information there. Again, what I just said was looking at the uses and the patterns, so make sure you have that in. Now pause me. Or refine your list as needed. Okay, what have we figured out so far? So we've kind of answered at a surface level our first question of, why do organisms need food? By saying we need input to make stuff and to do stuff. So I want you to record this model idea in doodle box E. So again, if you're thinking about the idea of why do organisms need food, how could you refine that question? How could you change that question? What else can you add to that question? Not simply why do organisms need food, because it's beyond that, right? What do you think it might be? You can do a little mini pause here if you want to think about it, and then I will give you a clue in just a second. Okay, here's your clue. All the things we recorded in our diagram are about matter or energy. So again, how would you refine that question? How would you change that question? So, we need matter and energy to survive. We know that. So what's our new question here? How can we refine our driving question? What would you write down? Go ahead and pause me now, and you're going to write down your driving question in F. So write your final driving question in F and pause me while you do it. Okay, so again, you should have a driving question in F, but now talk with the other snow leopards and work together to decide on a whole class driving question. And you're going to revise what you already have in F to do that. So what is your class consensus question? And you're going to write that down in F. Go ahead and pause me now, and everyone can write down their question in F. All right. Do you know what we're going to be doing tomorrow? Did you figure it out? Sorry, did you figure out what our driving question is? I hope you did. And then if you did figure that out, then that means you're going to know what we're investigating tomorrow. So I'll come back and check your work tonight, and we will see. But here we are. This was our day 1, chemical reactions. You should have answered your doodle sheet from A to F. You should have used your whiteboard to show thinking about why organisms eat. And you should have turned in a combined group poster which redefined or refined the driving question we had on why do organisms eat. Okay, I look forward to seeing your work later on, and congratulations on completing day 1.